Yeah, which maybe it had to be Emergo to solidify that precedent. I don't know.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. Hey, Tex.
Hello, hello.
How's it going?
It is going.
I'm excited to hear about your new boss, by the way.
I don't have a boss.
Hey, Leo.
Well, theoretically, Nick, I guess, give or take. Which, if y'all didn't know, Nick Clark, previous director of engineering for Tweag, is now director of Cardano Tech at Intersect. So he'll be replacing Matt Davis. Hi, Leandros. Hope you're doing well.
Pretty well. Hope everyone here is well.
Yeah, finally got time back to focus on things. Anyone know if the rest of them are coming?
No idea. I was just wondering that myself.
I'll give it 2 or 3 minutes, just because that's when my breakfast arrives too. So
Sounds like a plan.
I did see, I thought, 2 apologies, and then Kevin's out, so that's -3.
Oh,
do you know who the 2 apologies was? I know Mark Chin, I thought, was one. Hey, Bosco.
Well, it was Neil.
Neil cannot, and you, it's 4 of you.
How you doing?
Hello, hello, hi.
howdy, howdy.
Thanks for putting the agenda together too, Bosco.
You want me to start?
I was gonna give it till 7:03, 7:04.
You have 5 members now. Should I begin or still wait?
I mean, it sounds like we accounted for the people that aren't here, right? So I guess.
Yeah, if we got all our
Might as well
favorite
go.
people at the party, we can get started.
Okay, we have Sebastian as well.
Okay.
Former.
Look, I was moderated. I can't even talk on this one anymore. How I moderated.
Okay, so I can begin. By the power vested in me, I pronounce this meeting open. So, okay. Hello, everybody. August 12th, DSC meeting. Let's jump straight into it. And the first item on the agenda, meeting minutes. I will open it, share it, and see the actions. So it was for Alex to coordinate with the developer portal team to create SPO documentation user guides for setting up DNS SRV records, since that's not on the agenda later. So you did share something in Slack, if I'm not mistaken. What's the update on that?
Yeah, that we can tick off.
Okay.
In addition to that, Marcus will or has been planning an SPO campaign, shortly leading up to the big node change, when developers anyway need to, or SPOs anyway need to touch the node, and he will include SIP 155 specifically in that.
Okay, great. Sorry, I hear myself. Okay, for me, I shared the phased rollout document, and for the dashboard, I'm still looking at how this threshold, how this dashboard will be accessible, if at all. So currently, it's restricted to IO people, so I don't know. But I've shared that phase rollout document in the TSC elected members channel. I also informed Intersect Finance, Matt and Jack, that the TSC budget had a conversion document, and I think I gave you an update. So we have that on the agenda. So I will give you a bit more details with the respective links. Leandros, it was on you to review this product committee KPF framework survey, because there needs to be one answer from a committee. So we need to structure that answers. Did you have a time to look at it?
No, I didn't, and I was just writing in the channel if I can get a link to the framework, or is it just GitHub report?
You will have it. It's on the agenda as well, but in ClickUp there is a respective link. So.
Let me open ClickUp. All right.
Yeah. You have the link, so you should be able to see it. Okay. And then this was on Neil, so he pointed out that since he's going to be absent today, he will work on these action items. So this was when it comes to the previous meeting. Now, technical steering committee budget, basically. This is based on the approval. This is something that I've officially sent. So this italic text is the thing that I explicitly sent as is to internally at Intersect. So to have 24K USD for technical expert attendance at community events and commissioning of technical reports. And TSC needs to be transparent about that. So potentially to post something on X. So about that decision being made. I think maybe it's already something that we drafted. I need to double check, but essentially to be transparent. So as being said here in the last paragraph, the TSC will report periodically on usage of these USD secure fund and will maintain the transparency with the community through a corresponding public post in addition to committee's official limits. So that is it. And there's likely going to be another week before those funds are secured. So we'll see what will be the conversion rate minus the fees and everything at that moment, and how much remaining ADA will be left in the budget. So we can communicate that. I would say TSC can communicate that after it happens. Any questions? Also, I want to say that the next step also is to progress on the updates on the contracts and milestone breakdown for tip editors. And I will probably need you, Christian. We can take this offline to get some experience that you had with OSC before, and with preparing some contracts, some templates to see how it works, and then to progress it on that aspect as well.
Yeah, if you can copy text in on that too, because he did a lot of the.
Yeah, okay. Three of us, we can figure it out. So it's an action item on us. I don't have anything else to add when it comes to the budget. Are there any questions? If not, I can move on. Silence is golden. Dijkstra era hard fork. So this is just a summary of the meeting yesterday, but instead of me saying it, Ryan, were you there yesterday? Do you
I
want
was
to sum it
indeed.
up?
Sure.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, let me pull up the page. Just so I make sure.
The roads last night. Come on.
Where does it say? Wow, there's a whole bunch of stuff that happened here. Scope has not. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff on the update. Cardano updates docs. Scope timing. Scope has not changed. Dates have not changed. Comms have been aligned between Intersect and IO. Bootstrapping needs to be accounted for. You have to wait till there's sufficient number of BLS keys.
Yes.
Creating a timeline in Miro. There's some interaction with node diversity. I think Damien from Amari was there.
Yeah.
Good
Essentially, what I
feedback.
think they are advocating with 4 is basically that we, as a hard fork working group, we need to document the impact. So the right impact analysis being made, documented, so we can have that rolling engagement with the community about what these changes are doing, whether there are breaking changes, what happened.
Right. Actually, I was just posting that in the TSC chat, and I see it here too. So it was just occurred to me that I think that document is awesome, the impact analysis. Specifically for the hard fork, I wonder if we need more than just Laos for the impact analysis, right? Like,
No, I would say yes. I would go with any SIP. I would
Right.
ideally have that in the
That's true.
Cardano upgrade space. So I would, as it's kind of not conflicting, but strange role that I'm in as a secretary here and the hard fork. So I would really like to document all these SIPs impact that are
Agreed.
being implemented and what it brings and what it breaks.
Right, especially some of the ones that that could potentially introduce breaking changes, right? Nested transactions is another big one that I could see breaking a lot of tooling.
Yeah.
Potentially Paris. There are a handful of potentially breaking changes specifically going to Dijkstra. We want to make sure that we're well ahead of.
Sebastian, since you're here, so to hijack this, so you did the impact analysis on Laos. Who can be the right person for other SIPs? Should it go through you? Should they reach out to you, or should they reach out to Carlos or Daniel?
The SIP author?
Or,
Like if you author a SIP, you should know what it impacts, no?
okay, right point. But what if I'm not able to reach out to any SIP author at some moment?
Then the next thing is like who's implementing the SIP, right? And that is probably the next person on the hook, or somebody who gets paid for implementing a SIP. That is definitely somebody who should be having that info, at least as a starting point, and then maybe more as a crowdsourced around, right? Publish the scope information as much as possible, and to basically, you have this big list of readiness table, right? All these Explorer people, all these wallet people, all these tool builders, they might be entertained of having a look, but yeah.
Okay.
I mean, when you need some, like the Laos impact analysis, right? We did it because we put it in a contract into Intersect, right? It was a kind of a very early stage kind of engineering artifact where it was okay, how many things do we actually need to change? It was even kind of introduced considering like which variant of the protocol, what is actually feasible to deploy and so on, right? So it was very much created last summer when we did this refinement on the protocol version itself. Now, it's quite elaborate and maybe too big, like too long didn't read, right? A summary of that though can be like a few lines, right? So I think that can be like something each of these kind of readiness people can easily consume and say, the wallets, you're not impacted if you use the node to client protocol.
Perfect.
Done, right? For example, things like that.
That would be ideal. So that's what I was trying to understand. Who can write these things, these summaries for these SIPs? Who is the best person to start with? So if it's a
language
SIP
models
author,
can do that also quite well.
somebody, I would like somebody to verify because like, okay.
Yeah, no, of course, right? But it's kind of like to get everything into the same kind of brevity or verbosity or whatever you want, right? In a uniform fashion. You are very welcome. And by the way, you could also edit it down. The impact analysis is a public document in terms of layers, but it's kind of a bit superseded anyways these days. But it's still a good kind of like foundation to kind of draw this from. Anyone could ask the LLM by pointing to our public documentation, say, hey, do I need to change my tool?
Yeah.
Do we have a specific place where you can collect these impact analysis documents so they're not spread out all over the place? Like a single GitHub repository or a site or something?
It should be next to the hard fork scope definition, right?
Okay,
It's-
if we don't end up having any better place, it will be collected as a one-stop shop in the Cardano upgrades. How do we do it in the background? Another story. We can iterate on that, but that's exactly my aim, to have a one-stop shop about the changes that are being brought with hard fork.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to say too, if you run an LLM on the SIPs, leave it to the SIP authors to edit things if things are out of line.
Exactly.
that's
Or
typically
I
how
can
you-
actually ask Robert, right, as a SIP
Hmm.
editor. Since we're
That too.
chasing the contract for him, maybe could be a thing. Would be actually good to have a validation from a SIP editor on a SIP editor level. Okay. Anything else when it comes to Dijkstra? Or we can move on.
Yeah, there are a handful of
Yeah.
things, but I'll power through them. There was a Dijkstra readiness skeleton tracker spreadsheet that was shared. Some talk about trying to create a Cardano version of Forecast, which is an Ethereum website that's very cool for tracking
Mhm.
fork stuff, projecting out the
Which
future.
has not,
If somebody
which has
can vote for it,
notably, it has an impact for each EIP, right? Like,
Yeah, that's one of my favorite parts.
Um,
The schedule, I don't know if you guys checked out the schedule tab, but that's super cool that it shows you when everything, because everyone can get on the same page about when something's happening.
Probably a good question on my part too. Have any of the release candidates been uploaded to Chap yet, or is it still TBD?
no release candidates
What?
yet for Dijkstra. If you're speaking
Okay.
about Dijkstra ready,
Yeah.
node,
there's
not
no
yet.
full node yet ready for Dijkstra, whatever
Okay.
Dijkstra's called.
And if I'm not mistaken, again, that anticipated version should be 11.3 for Dijkstra ready, right?
Okay. I'm gonna.
I'm asking basically there were some different discussion before on release node meetings about 11.1, 11.2, 11.3, all bringing different things in, and I think if nothing changed, 11.3 should be the thing.
Yeah, I don't expect 11.2 to be up to par of whatever everyone wants to be in the hard fork. That means 11.3 is maybe already has all the features, but I mean, could also be higher.
To you guys, can be a different story from now on.
Maybe we have releases every week in autumn. A miracle happens and we have a release every week in autumn.
Gotcha.
And there are little green people, of course, as well. Okay. I think we can move on. Dijkstra. Okay. It's great that we have Sebastian here. So this was brought to the TSC attention quite a number of times over the past few weeks, months, I don't know, even when Sebastian was part of the technical steering committee. So from I cannot say anything from the TSC perspective, so I can leave you as TSC members to do it, but I can have a say from the hard fork working group perspective. So something like this, if there is a need or there is a specific target for a release, there cannot be an indefinite amount of time when some things are discussed. Otherwise, everything gets delayed significantly or exponentially. So I mean, Haskell Node's team got the mandate from the community to deliver layers, right? So from my point of view, from the hard fork working group perspective, TSC can give recommendations. Whether it will give recommendations or not, up to TSC, but the development team, anybody can correct me if I'm wrong, the development team, teams, plural, will progress on making this. Whether TSC will make a feedback or substantial feedback or not, up to TSC. There is a document where the link is shared where TSC can provide feedback, and I think the guys from the IO are ready to respond and to assess whether something is a showstopper, not a showstopper. Up to you guys, you're more smart than I am. So did I say anything wrong, Sebastian? Is that the right representation of the things, in your opinion?
That's perfectly fine. Now I just put the both links again. I have been a bit kind of keeping myself out of this, how we're going to have this conversation. we've been taking in both inputs or feedbacks we got in April. We responded, I think, 10 days after that in this this older document, the second link in the chat.
Yes.
This was the initial risk assessment, which we engaged with. I think we improved a few things. We found a bug in the simulation, things like that. So this was, of course, already appreciated, but we would love to kind of have a bit more of a forth and back conversation on whether this is now was really just a misunderstanding, a clarification here, or maybe which scenario would be more interesting to discuss about were mostly responses. Similar, the latest, I think, shared with us in June, while we were waiting for the first document commentary. Still, we now, I think we have this one document up, which you linked here, right? I think I saw Ryan already on it, so I shared with everyone here. This is the latest working document. I'm happy to also only use that or both. I don't mind, as long as we kind of have a nice conversation on like these very technical questions. This is a Google Doc, which is editable by all the TSC members. It's, I think, even publicly visible if by link, or no, that not, but I would be perfectly fine to do that.
I think it is.
Yeah, the older one definitely is.
Okay.
But yeah, nothing of this is secret. It's a protocol in preparation, in development, and we must apply scrutiny now, not in a year, because we hope to have it in the mainnet by that time.
I would like TSC to answer like anything that you do as members to that answers one simple question. So, is there anything in the currently planned Laos activities and development that should stop the train from arriving at the station of the hard fork enactment later in the year, or as early as possible? So is there anything worrying or concerning that we should all stop the train from arriving there before we fix it?
Too many hard forks.
That's another story. But okay, I don't want, from my point of view, I don't want to put any unwanted pressure or anything. Just aligning the sequence well and making sure that there is something we can all deliver, with all involved parties being respected and heard. With you, yeah. Or at least, I would also say not only concerns. I would be also happy if any of the members say something is good. So not only that something is bad, but something is good and reasonable. Any comment is welcome, I would say.
Yeah, I'll review it this Friday and then commentary to anything I see.
As at your earliest convenience, guys, I would say. Okay, anything else when it comes to this collaboration over this? I feel sometimes like a judge, jury, and executioner for like.
Yeah. I can see that. So yeah, I can just reiterate. Be welcome. Also add more questions. We wouldn't mind. I think it's the 5 or 6 questions which have been in this Word document shared with us. We took that as a framework, as a scaffolding. Responded on it in a fairly collaborative way. So actually you saw multiple people edit things, have also been sometimes have also been kind of contributing multiple ideas and kind of distilling it down into this main working document. So you see some other sheets in the same document, which is a bit more verbose, and you see often sometimes we also use these large language models, produce large verbose texts about very convincing things. But we try to kind of really digest it down into like what we actually really believe and understand and put that into that working document, and I'm happy to have a conversation there. Thanks,
Sorry, I
Alex.
was on mute. we are in a happy
Praise is
place, I
good.
suppose. Okay, the next thing on
I
the
mean, I
agenda
can-
is gone.
Yeah, I could comment briefly this governor concept as you put it on the chat, Alexander. So it's also the same with like the first round of commentary, I would say, right in April. It's not like it was completely annoying to us, right? We also kind of started looking at things, we found bugs or improved our analysis, right? So that's definitely useful, the feedback we got so far. We would love to have it a bit less one-off, but rather a bit more of a conversation. And this time it was like a main point was the question of stability on the protocol, right? Whether it is stable. And through like the Q theory and non-work conserving systems are inherently unstable, similar like undamped, but the system with high potential energy and low damper and so on. And we take that in. We discussed it also very, failing an English word here, but intensely in the team. We have opposing views even there. Like how much of stable or unstable it is, right? It really depends on the system closure and like what you consider the system. But we looked at it and we saw, yeah, for example, I don't believe that this is inherently unstable or kind of hard to stabilize because it's always an overlay to browse, which is definitely make this, and the bounded mempools will make it definitely a bounded system and ultimately asymptotically stable. However, right, there is other opinions which are more aligned with like, oh yeah, this is maybe a bit kind of too unstable. It really depends a lot on how we size these components like a transaction cache. And so we've been also, of course, looking further. And then like there's lots of analogies we've been using for like stability. It's like mechanical systems. We have mechanical engineers, actually. We have control system engineers even on the team. So kind of all kinds of stability, not only, I think, in queuing theory. And these analogies often there is like this SWOT governor, right? Basically the self-governing kind of mechanic system has been often also a bit inspiring, and also like networking, like algorithms where we like have what's it called? I think the congestion window in TCP even is governed using this kind of AIMD control algorithm. And I think layering this on top doesn't hurt. It is actually, it's a feature which gives you a better response on the perturbation, like, and whether you actually reach into like the stable state again. It could be giving you a better response, so makes it a bit more adaptive. But this is strictly on this optimistic side of the protocol because you just endorse less, create less traffic. But an attacker, an adversary, could still kind of just ignore that and try and attempt even more, right? Because it is not a protocol parameter which you can scale back deterministically over the whole network. It's more about the honest nodes scale down their honest demand onto the system in case of when there is not so much success on certification as expected. So it's kind of similar to the cooldown phase in Peros. And yeah, I'm happy to explore that and layer that on top. And this is in the document. So I hope I have intrigued a few to have a look, and we see you on the Google Doc.
Just want to add something that I missed for the hard fork. So also the constitutional changes now have a natural place for doing so, which I also want to get in touch with Carlos. But essentially, there is a constitutional amendment portal and a process about how these things evolve, and especially the Dijkstra-related changes, that constitutional changes that need to be in. So this also needs to be accounted for, but it already is. It's just a matter of going it through the process. And also from what I saw, Ryan, AdaStat just published that STIP 179 is live on their preview testnet. So great job pushing for that everywhere. And I think that it will soon be enabled on GovTool as well.
Nice. Yeah, I'd love to see it in action. I think it'll make a lot more sense to people once we see the first one. So
Yes,
it makes perfect sense in my head. So once we see it, it'll
exactly.
hopefully validate the design.
Okay, this thing, as we agreed last week, at least to have a snapshot of what's going on. So currently it's 10% increase on DRAPS support from last week, but only negligible amount on SPO support. So it's still very, very low. So Alex, do you want to do any ahead of the end time action?
Yes, I want to raise a concern and instigate some of the little in action, maybe from the TSC account or even Intersect account. Same as last.
Intersect just posted something like, I think minutes ago.
Oh yeah.
But there are
Is it-
two proposals in the
But
committee
maybe
and
it's
that both require SPOs. So I guess while they have the
perfect.
cold keys out, we might as well vote for both.
This is precisely the point I wanted to raise. Yes, that
Awesome.
SPOs still are lacking participation as expected, but we are ramping up communication on our end too. Awesome that Intersect did this early. Otherwise, looking good. There are very few no voices.
I was
If you
reading through
have-
some of the no's, and it's mostly just people that are grumpy about bundling, which is what
Exactly.
it is.
if you have anything as a draft post for X, Alex, just post in the TSC channel and we'll pick it up.
Thank you.
Okay. What else? Nothing else here. Okay, this is something that, okay, we have 2 more weeks. Leandros, there is a leak in this one. So is there anything else you need? So
No, I
in the-
filled it up. It was just a Google form, nothing of interest.
Sorry, I didn't get it. What did you say?
I filled in what the product committee wanted. It was just a Google form. It was basically what we already told them, but in Google.
Aha, yeah. Okay, that might make sense. So you already gave the feedback. So you already filled the survey, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, great. Since you're working on that, this survey is not meant for TSC only. It's meant for all committees. But
Okay.
we are one of the committees that already gave that feedback, so it made sense for you to fill it in. Okay, great. Then the case is closed for this one. And okay, Christian, is there anything else here? I just kept it on the agenda because I don't know what to do with this one.
Yeah. Essentially, I need to get something started. Neil had ideas on getting a working group or something around this, and or just joining in on the IOR side of it. I'll have a plan in a week. I just now got time back to focus on it. So
Okay, so what would be the action item between this week and next week?
meet with Neil or Kevin, whoever's available
Okay.
first, and then have an action plan to present to the TSC, and see if we need any changes to it before I act.
Okay.
But we have all the information we need for discussions.
Okay, great. So AOP. Anything else, guys? Whoever wants to jump in. I'm not the Christian, you have the lead, essentially. You're the vice chair. I'm not. So
Yeah.
up to you.
The one thing I was going to add, just for awareness, it's not necessarily TSC, but it is, I guess, quote unquote, from a security perspective. I did run a scan across repositories. I fixed the assessment. I'm going to upload the corrected reports just for internal reading, but I'll leave that with text escalate to whoever needs it. Maybe it's a good thing for Nick Clark to read into too. But it's an open source scanner that scans repositories from multiple factors. So, but yeah, fun
Okay.
AI.
Everybody using. Anything else from anybody?
Chris did never see Leos active, right? So I could show you briefly what, like, just yesterday morning, we respawned a Musashi testnet, right? So there is this one Leos testnet, which we already have. following this theme of the Miyamoto Musashi, the samurai, and like with these phases, you might have heard. Might
You
want
can
to get
stand
some
up and
merch.
show the t-shirts. Come on.
Yeah, might get
Yeah.
some of this this merch here with the samurai and whatever.
I would also like to be honest.
Yeah. I asked already Jenna whether there will be a merch shop or whatever where we can actually get it. Right, this is an Explorer we actually Costas created. It's DB sync backed, and it also indexes mainnet pre-prod preview, but also Musashi here. And as I said, Leos is active here right now. We have deployed our 10th or so prototype release. So we release every week the prototype, which is a fork of the Cardano node. All the consensus pieces are actually only on the fork, but Ledger and Base and so on is already the main branches. And you see here, for example, this is the latest blocks which are carrying Leos, and this is all the latest blocks. And you see, for example, here, these here are actually certifying Leos blocks. So there has been like 22 kilobytes of worth of transactions be certified here at this time. And the block body itself was very small, only 50 bytes. So these were announced here and they were certified here, right? And for example, you saw the mempool fill up here, the blocks actually getting bigger and bigger, then they exceeded. This is a full block basically here. And then the remainder was endorsed here. A very small endorsement, but it couldn't fit into this block anymore. And when we certify this one, we just endorsed exactly the next one still, which is now 22 kilobytes still. And this one got certified here and so on. So you see this active over and over. This is a bit of a network which has quite small load right now. So you would see but it's only on and off every now and then. On this Explorer, we don't really see much of the load stats and metrics. I can show you that too, but this is how you can explore it yourself. Yeah, ignore the meter. It's kind of flashy. It's too flashy because the load is not even big yet here. Exactly, these are the blocks. We talked briefly about, or Christian asked on the chat about, hey, what's this threshold here about, maybe, right? So on the blocks, we see only the ones which actually have more than 75% will be able to certify. And I think this one is the percentage which is in the block, right? So not all the votes we saw. Voting happens by all pools which are on the committee. Here you see the committee goes onto this block here, and then there's a cutoff. So the smallest 1% in this case, it's 99 percentile cutoff, are not on the voting committee. Everyone has their VLS keys activated here already. In the respin, actually, everyone registered their pools freshly, right? Needed to do. And our tools have been quite adamant of adding a VLS key to do it. So actually everyone has their key right away. On mainnet, this will be a bit more gradual. As you can't see it here. This is the data from the respin where we basically were going up this bar more and more and more as people were registering their keys into their pools, like adding metadata, right? This bootstrapping phase will be something which we're going to have on mainnet definitely. What else? Yeah, a stake distribution again, right? This is the one on the testnet is quite, yeah, it's not too bad. It's actually quite similar to mainnet. But yeah, you see lots of many same pools. These are all having the same delegation. We have a few big ones and then the IO ones in the top. If you compare that with like Preview, this is not too much different. For example, it's here. It's also very steep. It's just more pools, 200 up to whatever. What do we have? 198. It's 600 pools. And mainnet, very interestingly, this is for what our committee scheme needs to work, right? We have about 2,700 pools. And it's a quite steep still Pareto distribution. And the stake cutoff will basically be around here. Still, like 1,000 pools is quite feasible in terms of number of votes sent around. But basically a cutoff will be somewhere here. And this is basically all these pools will be in the committee and voting. There is no incentive to vote tied to directly. So it doesn't really matter whether you're on a committee or not, but we of course need to limit the number of votes eventually and the size of certificates, although they are very small. Yeah, and maybe a quick bonus round. This is the data. Oh, isn't this? I think there's a better one, huh? This is the data on the testnet. On you see the load is the mempool sizes of like several machines from I/O. And see, we turn on load every hour, then we have it off again, just turned on again. What we see here is actually the transaction kilobytes per second, which we do submit. So it's a bit more than what goes into browse, but only barely more, right? So we just see barely activated layers here. The mempools are quite big though already, so we could cap it lower to still have this throughput. We will go higher in the next phases. We're currently just finding footing and basically get everyone the tools and get into the flow in the water phase. We are collecting statistics, similar like this is the first things we're tracking, which is the so-called EB announcements. It's very much, it's actually headers. And these are headers which carry the announcement of, hey, there is an EB, go fetch it. And this one must be below like a certain cutoff before we can actually consider and do consider it as a valid announcement. And we need to detect equivocations on these. So that's why it's important that we have this diffusion histograms or later like maybe full CDFs on how well these things travel through the network. And we have more stuff, but that's basically it.
That's cool.
More metrics. Is there any questions?
Have y'all done any kind of like pen testing against it? DOS attack simulations, etc.?
Yeah, so we have a red team which is actively working and also interacting with this Musashi network. We're giving them some 11% or so stake. So they can actually do bad things and attempt it. It's not yet prime time for them because we have this phase where we kind of really want to focus on these attacking the testnet much. Yeah. But yeah, we have had some accidental and actually deliberate attacks, especially as the thing which is running here is the prototype, right?
Yeah.
So it is not the right. So like we have for most of these features, we have them in a prototype, right? But not an implementation ready yet. So basically what we deploy is a prototype which has still some holes here or there, which are actually, it works, a happy case, right, often, but it can be attacked, especially in attacking this process of EB diffusion. And where we actually want to really, as you say, denial of service or flood the network, protocol bursts, these kinds of things. So we are systematically going through the red model. So we've been writing up what can go wrong, right? What is the things we want to retain? What can go wrong? For example, somebody could try to burst the protocol, meaning they follow the protocol, but they just do it in a very unfortunate way that many messages come at the same time, right? General like nuisance and spamming and so on is also possible, but will be quite futile, right? Because we have good protocols, or we hope, but it's still tracked here still, right? Yeah, well, so we're trying to going through these and validate the threat exists and also validate the mitigation really helps if it's really viable.
Yeah. Because I think, didn't we have the DOS attack 2 years back? Be a good simulation to put it through. As long as it makes it more expensive for them to try to flood the network as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so what you're probably expensive for them is like if it is about, for example, having many transactions, right? And then what kind of transactions? It's crucial, right? So it can be just, is it duplicates? Is it invalid transactions? Is it conflicting, like trying to do spend the same thing transactions, right? Is that something an attacker does by their own? Or is it maybe something they kind of have everyone race for, right? What if you create a honeypot and everyone gets free money out of it and everyone tries to spend the same UTXOs and spams the network to get in quickest, right? What is the protocol doing with that? This is, by the way, the thread which disqualified many of the high-flying ideas of optimal throughput, high latency, but optimal throughput, like full layers ideas, which just makes this a bit impractical today.
Gotcha.
It's a challenge, at least.
That's cool about SIP 50 too.
I want to ask one thing to Sebastian and one thing to Ryan. So for Sebastian, you actually gave the matrix a few minutes ago on the things missing on implementation. So
this is fresh out of the oven, yeah.
Yeah.
I just wrote this up this afternoon before I chatted with you.
So what is in the full matrix, what is the biggest thing that is left to be done?
Getting high confidence on everything, make sure that it's really rock solid.
So,
of course, right?
There are no unresolved technical challenges. So it's about development, or there is something that you still need to think through.
So we have an idea, like the SIP already did a very good job in covering many things that need to be done, right? We have a prototype which is fairly complete. It has a few gaps here and there, right? It's kind of not fully done yet. But then we have at least a design, an idea of how to mitigate everything, we believe. But whether this is really the case, we don't know yet, right? So the known unknowns are not the scary ones.
Okay, that's exactly the answer that I would be looking for. So yeah, sure. For Ryan, what would be the craziest way that you would try to break layers today?
Oh gosh, I haven't thought about it too much yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know yet. Maybe denial of service with the EVs, but I think you guys are talking about that a lot. Traditionally, I'd be looking at like long range attacks, eclipse attacks, stuff like that. I don't necessarily think that Laos changes those, the calculus for those. So, I don't know. I think denial of service with EVs would be the most interesting thing. That Laos is a Laos specific attack vector.
Yeah. So basically, the new protocol messages we introduced, right? Basically, either spamming those or withholding them, right? This is exactly what we feel is most design impacting kind of threats, right? We've been actively using like data withholding to a larger sense and protocol bursts to a larger sense of the new messages is kind of like very much informing the actual realization of Laos, right? What components to build.
This is interestingly related to another problem we have with Praus, where a pool is selected to make a Praus block and either misses it or propagates it very slowly. And there is another SIP I think that will help this with Laos, and I can't remember off the top of my head what it is. But basically, if a pool has earned a lot of stake and just basically turns off the pool, but without deregistering, they're going to basically just be in that situation. Abandoned. I call it abandoned. Potentially made different by Laos, but I already wrote a SIP for that, and hopefully that will fix that problem too.
Yeah, it's a bit. It reminds me a bit of like the key rotation discussions I had with cryptographers. A key important bit on Laos is, right, we have new key material, which is actually the certificate you have on the block is a BLS aggregate signature. And like there is this natural attack vector, right? What is if somebody can corrupt keys, collect keys of SPOs, right? And then in a way, they do this in a kind of a adaptive way to some extent, right? Not in a stupid way, but in a way that basically they can every now and then pick, like this is this adaptive threat model, right? I think you might know that, Ryan, that what is the attacker threat? The attacker model is often, and in Praus it's very strong, like at any given moment they can compromise up to like 50%, just less of SPO keys, right? And they can change all the time to make that like this is the very strongest adaptive attacker, which is very unrealistic, even I believe. Everyone believes, but to some extent, you might need to kind of consider this, right? That somebody has access to keys of SPOs, and basically over time they could actually get more and more of them, right? And if you don't, for example, the key mitigation here is just rotate, right, all the time. So if they were compromised, then they don't can be used anymore after you rotate it. And this is the key compromise, or the key mitigation we have today on PROWS too, right? Which is the key evolution scheme, and also rotating those keys every 90 days. Following this up with the BLS keys is very important, right? They are kind of governing the similar bits of the ledger, basically what is a valid block. Still layered a bit on top, and whether it's your right to produce a block, but still, it's very important to have them rotated. And also what the cryptographer said, that we should be rotating VRF keys more often. There is not so much VRF key rotation also happening on the chain, which is to some extent also weakening the adaptive security of Cardano, right? Because an adaptive attacker can actually, over time, get more and more knowledge of the key of the leader schedule just by compromising VRF keys. And I think we did a survey. There was like a handful of pools on mainnet have ever rotated their VRF key. And not regularly. Maybe just they lost their key once or so.
I may be looking into cutting this off from the call.
No, it's not a kind of
is it a sensitive?
That's not super sensitive. It's just we could do better. It's similar like the key as agent, right? We can do better by where we keep our keys, right? We can always do better. It's not like there is like this big hole somebody can now attack PROWS because of that, right?
Okay.
But at the same time, right, we have this private leader schedule, right, under the assumption that this makes it very adaptive secure, right, which is true in theory, and in practice, if you never rotate keys, you just get all the drawbacks of a private leader schedule without the benefits of a public leader schedule, right, where you can do much more direct communication. Actually, say, yeah, in the happy case, you can actually be quicker and consensus whatnot, but the drawback is everyone knows who's going to produce the next block, right, or like. Not one, but maybe many people, right?
I'm thinking about a situation where, let's say we have a sustained amount of transaction that's above the PROWS threshold, so it's comfortably in the Leos threshold, right? Is there an attack vector there where somebody could? Maybe this is the same as the EB denial of service, but basically force the protocol back to PROWS and force the chain to be congested? Is that a 51% threshold stake, or is that a different threshold?
Yeah, so. The starting scenario, what you're painting is basically a very common starting scenario for Leos, right? And in this situation is, what can you do bad, right? Can you just get Leos deactivated, basically, meaning you lose the high throughput of what Leos gives you. The most trivial attack vector there is the attacker has some percentage of stake, right? And they get to produce a block every now and then, depending on like proportional to their stake. In linear layers, for example, you can take away some of the throughput by saying, I just don't include the certificate, although it would exist, right? So you just basically, I just produce an empty block, right? Similar like today, you just do less useful work than you actually could do.
So for BFT chains, they function similarly, and they have a 33% threshold. Is that the same for Leos, or is it able to do 50 also?
Yeah, so it's not final, but we go with a 75%, what is basically proposed, right? So that means a 25% attacker can actually turn off this high throughput. But at the same time, you have a guaranteed 25% of honest stake contributing on the diffusion, like it is 75 minus whatever you assume as adversarial stake, which must be below 50 on the PROWS anyways, right? So there's at least 25% of honest stake involved when you actually have a certificate, which is important to actually get the blocks to diffuse in time and actually retain the PROWS security. So it's a balance to be struck between 100 and 50%. Maybe we can go down to 66 to kind of be on par with a BFT chain liveness. But I also know of a few BFT chain designs where it says like 20% online, 20% adversarial, right? So it's kind of a mix between.
Is that an adjustable parameter, or does that require like?
Yeah, it will be. No,
Okay.
it will be just. It's a protocol parameter, which will be the certificate threshold.
Nice, I like it.
Good stuff.
6 minutes left in your time. Have a great day. I don't see anything has been endlessly discussed. We can discuss about layers in other forums as well. So it is an interesting one, of course. So again, TSC has a chance to comment. You have it. You can. The team welcomes that, but the train will go anyway. So
For the next Q&A session like this, or like a demo session, I come back gladly again, but I need at least 5 written comments on the doc before I come back, right? You used your credit now.
Okay. That's
Copy and paste the same thing 5 times.
That's a nice one.
All right.
Have a great day, guys. See you around.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Right.
Cheers.